Now, I think I've interviewed you like 3 or 4 times now over the past couple of years, and it's amazing how at each point there you've been at such a crazy different height in your career. It's really come along fast over the last couple of years. How are you processing and handling that?
Great, man. Just wait till this time next year, you know?
I mean,
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a hell of a couple of years for me, and I mean, really kind of everybody, wrapped up in all this, you know?
we've heard the terminology used, and we've heard your intentions wanting to be the first AEW champion, and we've heard the term ace thrown around there. Have you seen or heard of a possible design of an AEW championship?
You know, I haven't. I'm sure there will be an All Elite Wrestling Championship. I mean, it's kind of a given in wrestling. But I really haven't heard too much talk about it or anything. So, you know, I'm sure it'll be something that'll get unveiled at some point. And, you know, I know that we haven't really announced much outside of Double or Nothing and a show in Jacksonville. But I'm sure as things get announced, and you know, I know some other things now at this point, but I'm sure as things get announced, things like that will start moving along.
I mean, that's even a running gag on BTE now, is that not a lot's been announced, but there are some informative things, I'm sure. When we talk about championship designs, do you have any personal favorites that you look back over the years and you're like, man, that's a nice one, that's a nice one?
Oh man, you know, I don't know. That's a good question. For me, I think, you know, growing up as a kid, like the Winged Eagle WWF belt is, to me, like when I envision like what a championship belt looks like, that's kind of what it looks like to me. That and maybe the NWA title. I mean that just from my childhood is what a belt looks like to me. So I guess that's kind of ingrained in my mind.
At what point did you learn about the AEW plan and know this is where I'm going?
I don't know. January 2nd, maybe. You know, yeah, I mean, you know, even as we were building up to All In, we all kind of knew as a group that we were really on to something. And there was something that we had here that we had to expand upon, and we had to like expand upon it now. You know, we had to do it now. We had to go bigger. We had to go more often. You know, it couldn't All In couldn't just be like a once a year type of thing for our BTE fans or whatever. Like we were really on to something, and we felt like it was kind of maybe time to step out on our own and to, you know, if the opportunity could or would present itself to, you know, kind of do our own thing. So I think even before All In, you know, as we were building to it, it just kind of felt like, you know, as a group, we were on to something that we individually needed to expand upon.
On a recent episode of BTE, it showed you going over the seat chart, and you kind of joked, oh, we've been working on this. Then you said, well, okay, so I haven't really. Do you do anything on that side of things? Have they kind of bent your ear on anything like that?
I'm not an executive. I'm not an employee. I'm the only one of the immediate group who is not an executive. But that's fine. So yeah, there are a lot of conversations that and meetings and things that, you know, I'm not really a part of, and that's fine with me because I think all of us are in collectively different points in our careers. But I feel like, you know, I'm 27, and I'm just in the past couple of years really picked up steam as a wrestler, and that's where I want to focus, you know, all of my energy, all of my talent, and all of my time. So I kind of prefer it this way, to be honest.
Did you ever consider a Ring of Honor, New Japan, WWE instead of AEW? Because we've heard about other offers being made to you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it'd be a lie if I said I didn't consider anything. You know, any kind of offer put on the table is something that I took a lot of time and thought about. I mean, because no matter what you do, there are some pros and there's some cons. There's some risks involved. I think what we're doing is probably the riskiest of them all. You know, there's not a lot of guarantee in what we're doing. We don't own a wrestling ring yet. But I think in everything that was put out in front of me, I think the opportunity to make All Elite Wrestling happen, make it a success, was probably the best option for me. First of all, as a wrestler, as a performer, as a person. But second of all, I hope that just my okaying this and signing on to it, along with a few other people to help this get off the ground, can help change what wrestling is for, thousands and millions of fans, and can change what wrestling is for wrestlers. I know already of a lot of guys whose offers double, because there's somebody else playing ball now. So, I can think about a lot of friends who, in part because I signed on and helped get this thing off the ground, not me as much as, Matt and Nick or Cody or even Kenny, but, knowing that I contributed that in some way, and, hopefully that'll be the case for years and years to come. I think that is probably the biggest selling point anyone could have ever given me.
It's funny that you say AEW doesn't own a wrestling ring yet, because that was kind of a question that I had for you. If you had your choice, would it be an 18 by 18 or a 20 by 20? Do you know if any conversations have been had there? Because, that's kind of an underrated point that a lot of people don't think about, how that affects production and in-ring and all that.
Right, yeah. I can't speak for everybody. I know I like a 20 by 20, like New Japan sized ring, more than anything I've ever wrestled in. I always thought they seemed too big until I spent, a few tours in Japan, and those rings are a little bigger. And when I come home, a ring at home would just feel way too small. It felt tiny. So I'm kind of partial to a bigger ring.
So I've done a lot of long-form features in my life, like on Muhammad Hassan and where he's been over the last decade, and the story of the Brawl for All. But last fall, I did one about penis druids. You got carried off by penis.
Congrats.
Yes. I interviewed an honest-to-God penis druid, in which carried you off. So, if friends outside of wrestling, did any of them see that? What did they think? How was that?
I knew what I was building to for All In. For almost a year, I had a feud with Joey Ryan first about penis envy, and then it became a murder mystery that culminated in his resurrection, and then being accompanied to the ring by a group of inflatable penises. So I knew where this was going, and it was something I really wanted to do because I just thought it was just different. It's sometimes just refreshing, even if it's ridiculous, to see something different. And I love that kind of thing. So I knew where this was going. So it wasn't something I talked a lot about with like family and friends because I knew what the payoff was going to be. And it would probably be a lot harder to explain than to have them enjoy. So I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't even essentially let them know that All In was like a big deal, just because I didn't want to have to explain that to them. But that is for a lot of fans a or the highlight of All In, just because of how preposterous it was, and because in the grand scheme of things, it made perfect sense.
So this promotion will obviously gain access to some bigger venues. Are there any that you're particularly looking forward to wrestling in?
Yeah, there are a lot of buildings that it just kind of depends on how things go in the next few weeks and months as things continue to develop. I got to be honest, I would love to wrestle at Madison Square Garden one day. I thought for a while it would be a thing that I would do coming up here soon. That turns out it's not the case. So, I would like the chance to wrestle there at some point. And I think I'd like to wrestle there on my own terms, when All Elite Wrestling could be the draw there. That would be huge for me. That would be cool. I would like to go back to Japan and go in some of those buildings again. Korakuen's probably my favorite building to wrestle in. And I guess if we're talking about bigger buildings, the Budokan was really cool to be in as well. Anybody who's anybody has been to Budokan, and that was really cool as well. But as far as buildings, I have not been in yet. Madison Square Garden would be one.
So as I look at some of the programming that AEW does have out, BTE and Road 2 have very different tones. Do you prefer one over the other, and which style would you like the television to lead towards?
I love them both, and I think that's something that, I mean, not to brag, but I think that's something that we do well. Is we do both things well. You know, BTE is what it is. You know, everyone knows what that is at this point, and you know, as we have something a little more realistic, a little more down to earth, like Road to Double or Nothing, I think that's good too, because people want to see some of that, you know, those genuine moments, genuine feelings, and things as we build towards the show. In my mind, you know, I hope once All Elite Wrestling really gets moving. It's a bit of a combination of both. You know, I've always been a big believer in that wrestling is the ultimate circus. It's the ultimate variety show, and it's it's a completely made-up universe. So there's no reason why something serious and something silly couldn't exist in that same universe. So, you know, I think ultimately, I think All Elite Wrestling will be a lot more sports-centered than, you know, being the Elite is. But I want to keep some of that humor and some of that fun that we're able to have on being the Elite as well.
Adam, let the people know where they can follow you on social media as we wrap up.
Sure, yeah. Twitter is @TheAdamPage, and Instagram is Hangman Adam Page. That is it for social media. ProWrestlingTees.com/AdamPage. And Pro Wrestling Tees has an All Elite Wrestling page as well that has some of my stuff on it.